Okay, I'm going to hit record now. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Celeste Kramer. I'm the Development Director at Inspire School of Arts and Sciences. I'm excited to facilitate this info session where we're exploring the world of Inspire with faculty, staff, students, alumni, and today, parents. Inspire is a tuition-free public charter high school. We specialize in educating students who are interested in pursuing higher education or careers in the arts and sciences. And we offer a variety of pathways and majors to help students explore and pursue their passions. Enrollment at Inspire is open until January 31st, and this info session series is designed to answer your questions about what makes an Inspire education unique. We hope you enjoy today's panel. If you're interested in learning more about enrolling at your high school student in our program, please visit us at inspirechico.org. We'll have time for question and answers following the panel. So as questions come up, please type them in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them at the end of the panel discussion. This session is recorded, and the recordings of this and the previous sessions can be found on our website as well. Today's panel is made up of parents of current or graduated students of Inspire School of Arts and Sciences. I am also a parent of an Inspire senior, and I have a son who is starting at Inspire next year. So I'm especially excited today to hear from our parents who have watched their teens grow as part of the Inspire family. Thank you all for being here. And we'll go ahead and get started. Our first,
Say your words. Sorry.
Our first thing we'd like to do is have the panelists introduce themselves and the age and the grade of their children, or the year that they graduated from Inspire, and then their child's area of focus in school. So we'll go ahead and start with Joni.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joni, and I have two children at Inspire, a 14-year-old who is a freshman and a 17-year-old who is a senior. And their focus has been primarily in theater and musical theater.
Hi, I'm Todd Gibson. I'm actually Joni's husband. She's about 15 yards away from me. And, oops, excuse me, I guess I share the same kids, except when they're naughty, then they're strictly my kids.
My name is Julie Anderson-Nilsson. Welcome. It's great to be here and part of this panel. I have three kids, but my two older ones, well, one was in high school way before Inspire, and the other one was at Inspire briefly. And then my third child was started at Inspire as a freshman, and she's now a junior. And she particularly enjoys the dancing program, but every class, actually.
I think I got skipped there, so I'm going to jump in here. My name is Carol Brown, and I have three kids who have and are going to Inspire. My oldest, Connor, started there. I think it was the second year that Inspire started. He graduated in 2015, went to Berkeley. Now he lives up in Eugene as a software developer. My son, Kieran, graduated in 2019, and he's science all the way. Ever since he was about 2, he's science all the way. However, anyway, okay, so that's Kieran. And then Eiley is a junior, and she's been here since freshman year, and she was Miss Scarlet in Clue last year, and she loves art and she loves science, and kind of all of it is just perfect for her. So
and I'll finish up. My name is Kate McCarthy. I have 2 Inspire graduates. My son graduated in 2016 and has subsequently graduated from UC Santa Cruz. My daughter graduated in 2018 and is currently a junior at Columbia University. And their area of focus at Inspire was not being very focused. They were not theater people. They were not tech people in particular. My son, I guess, a little bit, but I think what I want to highlight tonight is just the superior academic preparation that that my kids got at Inspire without having those particular focuses of their attention.
Yeah, thank you, Kate, because we don't often think of that. A lot of times people think you have to enter and get directly into science or art, but you can come in and you can be confused or want to have all different expertise. So what led you and your child or children to choose Inspire School of Arts and Sciences for their high school?
Am I starting?
Sure.
Okay, so I want to mention three things, sort of picking up on what I just said. For us, it was all about the academics. We were very attracted to the block schedule arrangement, which allowed our kids to have more opportunities to take different kinds of courses, including coursework at Chico State, which they took much advantage of. I think another feature that was really appealing to us was the personal care associated with a small school that really both of our kids got. And here's a tiny example of that. When I was thinking about whether our daughter Elizabeth would fit in at Inspire, because I thought of it as a very performing arts kind of place, and that is not my daughter. She's a shy introvert. And so I reached out to Becky Brown, who was then an English teacher and a friend of mine, and I said, do you think our daughter would fit in there? So she took the initiative and interviewed a number of her students who she identified as introverts and recorded them and quoted them and sent me a long message about, here's what some introverts say about life at Inspire. We were hooked. It was great. And we wouldn't have gotten that at a larger school. And finally, I would say the quality of the instruction. There's outstanding teachers at every school in our district, absolutely, but it's pretty consistent and uniform across the board at Inspire. And when I was talking about making this, being part of this panel tonight, my daughter, who's at Columbia now, said she had better math instruction at Inspire than she has had at her fancy pants Ivy League school.
Wow. Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that at all? Yeah, Joni.
I'd like to add on something that my 14-year-old said when she was from the get-go so looking forward to, as she is finishing up middle school, so looking forward to going to Inspire. In the lead up to that, she made a comment something like, when I get to Inspire, I'll get to be the person that I want to be, the person that I really am. And that was a really powerful statement, that she had felt that even though she was sort of at a small school for middle school, that she didn't feel like she could express herself, that she could show her personality the way that she wanted to, but she knew that once she got to Inspire, that everyone would be welcoming and accepting of a whole range, a whole diversity of perspectives and ways of presenting. And so that was a really powerful statement for her to make, and something that she was really excited about when she made the decision to go to Inspire.
Wow.
I can add to that.
Sure.
I absolutely want to support the idea, repeat the idea of the benefit of being in a small school. I mean, I just thought a school with 400 to 500 kids, every kid is going to get proportionately so much more attention than at a big school, regardless of who the teachers are or who the kids are. Just, knowing them, seeing them pass through campus, they're going to know each other better. And I just feel like a small environment is much better for kids. I feel that pretty strongly. So that was a huge draw for us. But the focus on community is so strong at Inspire. I mean, from the creation of the advisories and just having that be a mainstay in our program, that you grow, literally, they grow from freshman through senior with that same group of kids in their advisory that they hang out with every single day or 4 days a week and get to know and grow with and evolve with. And they do family days and they do picnics and they do activities outside of school and they do all kinds of things together, but they're getting to know each other. And it's like this group that they might not have anything in common with freshman year, but then sophomore they find friends and they have, it all evolves within that. So I really love the advisories. I think that is a huge thing that we do that's really fun. And then I also want to say that my oldest son, Connor, he came to Inspire and wanted to do all of it. I mean, he's very science oriented from the get-go, but he did all of it, you know. And I love that he was probably going to do that anyway, but I love that at Inspire, all of that is not only encouraged, not only accepted, but encouraged and just welcomed. You know, you've never sung before, join the choir. You've never performed in a play before, try out. You know, dancing, try, go for it. You know, and everything is encouraged. And I just love that. My second son, he it surprised the heck out of me, but his senior year, he applied for a ballet and performed in a ballet his senior year, which came out of nowhere. You know, they needed boys, so he tried out, but he felt like he could, you know, because it was okay. So I just love that. I just think the diversity of experiences is what we want for all our kids in every aspect, and Inspire gives them the freedom and the encouragement to try new things that they might never do otherwise. So I think that's I'm done.
Thank you.
Well, I'll chime in. It's Julie Nilsson. I'm going to echo some of what you all said because you touched on the most important parts, I think. The small campus is just a funny thing, but the small campus is a huge piece of this. And I think the other thing that I've seen over the years is how these teachers and staff, there's not a giving up about any problems that arise. And full disclosure, my husband was the principal for the inception of it. So I've also been able to kind of on the sidelines witness that in terms of the people that he originally and then a team hired, the caliber of humans that are teaching in those classrooms. And I think both Joni and Kate, you touched on that too, are not only professionals and dedicated, but they're fun-loving, wonderful people. And I felt very privileged to get to see that the first few years and be with them on a kind of a social level sometimes and realize, wow, not only are they great teachers and smart and academic and professional, but they're wonderful, fun people. And because of that, I think that adds to that human element, that advisory, that small, they fit in a campus like this. And so it's a win-win because they do understand some kids aren't going to get certain concepts, or we're going to have to try a different avenue with a student here, perhaps another teacher or another time of day or whatever it may be. They don't give up. And it's just been amazing to witness that over and over and over again at Inspire. So they haven't given up on my daughter, I guess is what I'm getting at too, because there's been, you know, high school's tricky. There's some struggles, and she just loves school. She loves going. She talks about the best teachers in the world, how much she learns, how oftentimes even on vacation, she's like, I can't wait to get back to school so my brain can get engaged. And boy, that's just music to my ears as a parent. So
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for answering that question. Our next one is talking about involvement with parents. And from your perspective, how does Inspire involve parents and families in their child's education and experience? And Carol, do you want to start with this one? Okay.
Sure, I can start with that one. We have always been at charter schools and from the get-go, and charter schools in elementary school, it's really easy to get parent involvement because they need parents in the classroom and parents to drive on field trips and parents to come be on the playground, you know, etc. That's different in high school, obviously. So it's not as clear cut as I'll come every Tuesday and teach or help with whatever, you know, they're doing. It's not like that. So we're kind of behind the scenes helping. And so it might not seem that it's as important because we're not there in the classroom, but it's hugely important. And a lot of what gets done at Inspire is because there are parents who band together and make things happen. So I know that Inspire really encourages parent volunteers, really appreciates it. I know I've been doing it. I always feel so appreciated that I'm doing what little I can. It feels like I'm very appreciated for what I do. sometimes it is driving on a field trip or driving a club, being available to help a club out doing something. Another thing that they want parent involvement with is that the directors have always asked for, directors, principals, whatever you want to call them, have always asked for parent input about, we've got this new direction we're going, or we're planning this new, what about this? We're thinking about having majors, we're thinking about moving, we're thinking about, everything gets run by the parents first. So not only from the administration, but also each teacher, you'll hear from your parent, as a parent of Inspire, you'll hear from your kids' teachers regularly. It's not every day by any means. It might not even be weekly, but sometimes it is. But you'll hear from the teachers. They email you and just let you know what's going on in the classroom. Let you know, this is a tough week, we're doing this in chemistry or whatever. Your kids might have questions or problems. Encourage them to call me, or encourage them to come to my office hours, or whatever. They give you the tools you need to help your student be successful at school, which is fantastic. As a charter school, fundraising is also a huge part of being at Inspire, and we have lots of fundraising things that happen for classrooms, for clubs, for the foundation. And so there's lots of opportunities to jump in and do that. And it's not, like I say, it's not directly helping your kids specifically, or it's not in their classroom, but it's hugely helping the school. So that's really helpful. And also in the advisories. The advisories are like your kid's little family at Inspire. And so sometimes they'll have a Thanksgiving feast. And so Mom, I need an apple pie by tomorrow, that kind of thing. Sometimes that kind of thing comes up. Celeste, do you want to talk about the more on the fundraise, more on the parent involvement and signing up on the computer and things like that on the website?
Yeah, so this last year we put some money into designing a volunteer portal that now parents can sign up as volunteers. They can see what we need at the school. They can go in and sign up for those things. They can log their hours, and we are sending out gifts and thank you cards to parents, because one of the things that we feel very strongly about is that volunteers need to get appreciated. And I think a lot of places don't appreciate their volunteers. So we're really trying to appreciate the volunteers. So that's one thing that we really wanted to put some time and effort into doing. So that's another way we encourage parents to get involved. So. Okay, so moving on, one of our core values at Inspire is open-mindedness. And how has Inspire created an inclusive environment for your child or children? And how, in your view, has that impacted their high school experience? Julie, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure, I'll start. I think in terms of inclusivity, I think the emotional safety of students and our kids is a top priority at school. So no matter what your students' interests or identities, and if they're part of the LGBTQ community, if they're part of whatever club or organization, the emphasis of their emotional safety is paramount at Inspire. It's talked about at staff meetings. I've talked with teachers about it. It's something that is above board. There's a strong awareness, and there's a deep understanding of their emotional needs. Their individuality is honored and respected, and that's felt when you're on campus, when you're in classrooms, when my daughter comes home and talks about conversations and lessons. You know that that's communicated, and it's an honorable piece of the school. And that's what I think I really appreciate, is that I get to hear about it. It's not something that it's slightly talked about or discussed. It's embraced. And again, I think getting back to the small campus, it could happen on a big campus, but when it happens on a small campus, there's that proximity that students have. Like I think Carol, you mentioned too, they walk by each other several times a day. They get to know each other. They get to understand each other, and embrace those individualities. And so it's a great element that Inspire offers. And it's been, I think, one of their great successes too.
Yes, go ahead, Joni.
Just wanted to add that that our oldest daughter was at Inspire when the campfire happened. And Julie, what you were sharing was making me think about the school's response to the students and the staff and faculty who lost their homes and so on during that time, just how much the community banded together to provide support, and not just the faculty and staff of the school, but the students really took on so much to support their fellow students during this, again, very hard time for the community of Inspire and the community of Butte County. It was really touching and wonderful to see people taking care of each other, and getting donations in and getting them distributed to people who needed them, and just continuing to provide that emotional support, Julie, that you were talking. It was just a very powerful experience to be part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we especially need that. It seems like in our area, there's no lack of crisis around us. And I can also speak as a staff person that this year especially, they have every single part of the staff meetings is dedicated to addressing trauma with the youth, and that is something that's a priority to them. So that a piece of the staff meeting is dedicated to teaching the staff how to do that with youth, which has been really, really helpful.
Can I add one extra thing on that?
Yes.
I've had the opportunity to do what, I don't know if they still are called enrichments in Inspire, little once a week, 20-minute instruction from my academic field, just as an extra thing if the students were interested. And so I got to observe students in the classroom a little bit. And one takeaway for me is that Inspire draws really interesting students, and they wear their different identities and personalities quite openly. And so there's a lot of diversity swirling around in that room. And I just have observed unfailing kindness. I mean, there's just never any, I never saw any sort of judgment or eye rolling at the kid who makes the odd comment, just kindness seems to prevail. And at least from the little bit that I've gotten to see, and that's the core, I think, of how you handle difference, is operating out of a base principle of kindness, which seems deeply rooted there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Kate. That you spoke exactly to the core of Inspire. At Inspire, we're not just focused on academics. We want students to be socially aware and civically engaged. How have you seen your value reflected in your child? Kate, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure. I've been giving a lot of thought to this, and again, my kids are in the house with me now, so I've gotten to bounce these ideas with them. And I was trying to think of what is it that Inspire did that made my kids very faithful listeners to the news. They track politics very closely. They're both activists. My son is very active in the local Sunrise group. They've been to umpteen demonstrations here and in Washington. And I thought, what does Inspire have to do with that? I mean, they had outstanding government courses. They learned their civics there. But what I think it came down to is that the teachers and staff at Inspire, in my observation, talk to students like real humans. They talk to them like grown-ups, like young adults, which they are, emerging adults. And I think that gives the students this foundational sense that their ideas matter and that they can be agents in the world. They can be taken seriously because they've been taken seriously in this very formative place. In particular, I would note that when a social issue has emerged. In my daughter's case, the most dramatic one was the walkout that the students planned around combating gun violence. The way the campus handled that, I thought, was so spot on. They made clear that there are, responsibilities and consequences associated with walking out of school. Our priority is your safety. Here's what we're going to do. Let's talk about this issue and understand context and background. So again, they were supported in being active agents in their community in a responsible way. And finally, I'll note the recent emphasis that the campus is placing on how to do civil dialogue around difficult differences. We need it everywhere. God knows today we know we need this everywhere. And the school is, working with young people on this really critical skill that isn't being taught everywhere. How do you communicate effectively and constructively with people who don't share your core ideas about how the world works? It can be taught, and I think the school is taking that on, and it's impressive.
Thank you. Yes, Julie.
Yeah, Kate, you touched on this and I thought about it. I think one of the things I've watched and have witnessed the teachers at Inspire do, and the admin, and then of course the kids, is they take an opportunity, whether it's a positive opportunity or a horrible thing that happened, and they turn it into something, a way to learn and serve. And whether it's the campfire or the demonstrations downtown, it was, how do we get involved? What are our skills? Who can do what? When are we doing it? How are we going to do this? What are we learning from it? And then let's communicate it out to the parents to see, get their feedback and how we're doing this. Is our approach? Do you agree? Give us input, show up to the meetings. It's such a great thing to see something that could be construed as a horrible thing not to talk about as a learning opportunity, and what can we give to our community. So that was just, I wanted to mention that I've seen that happen with Inspire, and it's just refreshing, exactly because of what you said, Kate, too, that it's given an opportunity to learn and grow and listen to each other and understand each other, which we need to do.
Thank you. As many of you know, Inspire has taken a gradual approach to COVID-19 the pandemic. As a parent, how do you feel about this approach and the way families are involved in the decision-making through this challenge? Joni, do you want to touch on that?
Yes, absolutely. One thing that has been clear to me from the middle of March was that the faculty and staff of Inspire, with amazing leadership from Becky Brown, had a focus on how will we serve students, all of the students, in the best possible way we can. And I participated in a number of meetings from that point through today, even where the faculty and staff of Inspire had that core focus in all of the decisions being made, was what's best for students, what's best for their learning, and what's best for their overall experience, their feeling, basically their experience. So that gradual approach, one thing that has really helped Inspire is that I witnessed Becky communicating with the staff, with the faculty, with students, and with parents, collecting data from all of those groups, and with others involved as well, of course, looking at those survey results, as well as having Zoom meetings like this, and inviting participation and inviting reaction and response to ideas being put forward on how to move forward during the pandemic, has just been amazing. my sense is that that's not happening everywhere. That kind of, let's bring everyone's ideas to the table, let's hear from everyone, get everyone's input. What I have been particularly impressed by with the gradual approach was I was always thinking for how are we going to serve students, but protect students, protect staff, protect faculty, and so on during this time. And they have come up with an approach that consistently I've heard my students, my two kids, and the faculty and staff say that this has worked so well for moving to online, which is what they've been referring to as a 1/8 schedule. So one course at a time online instead of 6 courses at a time online has been really helpful for students to engage and focus, and for teachers to be very supportive of that group of students within that 4-week period of time for each course. It's not without challenges as well, but it has been a really positive way of dealing with the at a distance online piece of what's had to happen during the pandemic. And again, always with input from the staff and faculty, input from students, and input from parents, helping to make these decisions come into action. It's been very impressive. And I've heard from my friends with students in other locations, not specifically in Chico, but all around the United States, who have expressed some frustration at it not going as smoothly as it has gone really with at Inspire, which has been just good for my students, my kids. And I think maybe all of us who have current students there also have had the chance to be eavesdropping into what our students are experiencing online with faculty. And I've been so impressed with the creativity, with the attention to engagement, and with the follow-up feedback and outreach that the faculty have had with my kids, to make sure that they're doing all right, if there's any needs that they have, not just academically, but also socially and emotionally. It's just been just amazing, a very positive experience. And my kids haven't been complaining about being online during this time at all, because of how much they feel cared for by people at Inspire.
Yes, I can also speak to that, having an 8th grader compared to having someone at Inspire, that the differences that they've experienced since March has been night and day. I have one kid that's very excited to get up and start school, and the other one who, oh boy, it's we've had some rough times over here. Carol, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry
Sorry.
about that. I interrupted you. Okay, well, thank you, Joni. I appreciate that. And then one of the questions is, how has your student evolved academically, socially, emotionally during their time at Inspire? Todd, would you like to help answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anecdotally, academically, to the extent that procrastination is inherited genetically, my kids are equally, they haven't quite measured up to me, but they're pretty good at procrastinating. And I think the form that had taken prior to Inspire, certainly the most visible that comes to my head are the larger projects they would have to do. And prior to Inspire, there would be a lot of waiting to the last evening. I have to do these 10 things. Oh, why didn't you tell me? Whereas in Inspire, there has been an enthusiasm where they've engaged in the projects and had some excitement to it. And I think academically that speaks to how the faculty are making the materials relevant to them and feeling making them a part of it. And it's really great to see that enthusiasm. Also, our freshman, who's just starting out, was very much Well, a lot of ambiguity and fear, obviously, because we are in an online environment right now. So not only is it a new school, but it's a totally different environment that she would have been completely unaccustomed to. And it's been wonderful to see her get engaged academically through these trying times. She kind of jokingly complains, kind of taking a deep breath and girding herself for the day because this instructor loves so much what they're doing that I'm just going to be busy constantly, and I can't just sit there and look at my phone while there's some lecturing going on. The instructor is really keeping them engaged the entire time. And not an insane amount, obviously, as you would expect from a healthy academic environment. There are breaks built in and all that, but it's wonderful to see that they're kept on their toes because they got to keep contributing. Clubs is another thing that's been interesting to see how our senior, I was actually surprised to find having a hard time scheduling some after school stuff because she's got 4 clubs that she's involved in, and she's constantly involved in after school Zoom meetings to deal with these clubs. So that's been exciting to see her grow into that. Prior to hitting an online format in the previous years, our senior, it's been interesting to see that her friend group has evolved over the years. It hasn't remained static. And that has certainly come as she's grown and matured and her interests have changed. And I think comparing it to my own experience in high school, the one word you often hear is cliques, and I just don't see cliques at Inspire. Everyone, and it's been touched upon previously, but the students are so kind. I think kindness was the word that was used. They're so kind to each other that it's really, really easy to kind of meld with anyone there at the school. And also, I get a sense that the student morale is very, very high. I think at that age, it is so incredibly, I think the path of least resistance is to have a jaundiced view of the world and to be cynical. And I'm really not seeing the cynicism there. It's amazing to see how my daughter's grown over the years and how my freshman is really taking the same path of realizing that it is a safe place to be. So I'll stop
Thank
there.
you. Yeah, that's great. Um, Speaking to that, I often hear, and I'm very surprised and taken back not having the same high school experience that my son is getting, that the students are often complimenting each other all the time. And it's such a beautiful thing to see when you have 2 students who might be 2 different dancers, phenomenal, and they just compliment each other. And I don't know if everyone else has experienced that too, but I'm just always a little taken back and trying to remember, did I have that experience in high school? I don't remember everyone being so appreciative of each other. Um,
Mm.
so I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you, Todd, for that. Did anybody else want to touch on that? Or can I move to the next one? I think Todd did a pretty good job. Okay, so the next question is, how has Inspire prepared your student for life after high school?
I
Some
can
of
start
us,
that one.
okay. I was gonna say some of us can't speak to that.
Yeah, I have 2. So I think that the academic challenges that Inspire has set up in the classrooms and the expectations from the teachers that you will engage, you will tell me exactly what you're thinking, and we'll figure it out, and you'll, write it well if it's an English class, you'll describe it well if it's a science class, you'll figure something out if it's a math class, and we'll work through to get you to figure out the train of thought that you need to get to that solution or whatever. which I think comes back to the small size and the engagement and the amazing teachers. It all supports each other to make them curious human beings who know that they just have to go out there and try or put themselves out there. Yeah, I think it's the support of the expectations that they're going to put themselves out there, and then the support that lets them do that, I think goes really far. So I think the academic support and the community support is really huge, that they feel comfortable in themselves so they can try new things, whether it's raising their hand in a math class or joining a dance class as a senior or whatever. Also Inspire does a lot of their classes are, a lot of the science and classes are, they do small group work. And from my college students at Berkeley, both of them have had experience where that's huge. That is a huge part of their college experience, is getting with a group. If that's not the right group, that isn't at the same, academic level as you move to another group, you find another group, and like you seek out your peers to bounce ideas off of and make things happen. And I think that expectation at Inspire, or that support at Inspire, that was what happens. I think that really set them up well for continuing that philosophy or that expectation when they got to college, because I think it's really important. I think it's very helpful, and yeah, so as well as just being kind to people and saying compliments to people when you see them, and I mean that's nice for the rest of your life.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to say something too. I hadn't really thought of this before, but the huge amount of electives to choose from. You can't help but choose 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 over the years. So it's not just a theory of, giving compliments. They're experiencing new things all the time, and they're succeeding or failing, but they're experiencing it. And so they have those kind of real life experiences at a high school level and it's safe, and they have that support from the teachers and whatnot. So, the musical theater class wasn't great for you, but I noticed that you were talking to somebody in that robotics class, and why don't you try that? So there's so many opportunities for them to test things and learn and grow and complement each other as a result of that. So I hadn't really thought about that before, but the electives is a huge part of the school, of course.
I want to say one more thing building on that. The electives are huge. One very practical way that Inspire prepared our son is that the recording arts class that he took, just because he loved guitar and wanted a whole class where he could bang around on a guitar and record things, taught him how to use Pro Tools, which was a huge leg up in some of his subsequent work in college. And my daughter got to explore poetry writing, which made her brave in ways that she was not coming in. She became, comfortable publicly reading her work, etc. But I think more than that, and again, this is something our kids shared when I asked them about this today. They said they observed teachers talking to each other about the connections between their disciplines. And so they were able to see the connections between those disciplines. Like, right, you might not enjoy this, but there's that other class over here that does this, and they're really connected in this interesting way. And the evidence of how that worked out for my kids is that my daughter is a pre-med Spanish major who's still writing poetry, and my son just graduated with a degree in electrical engineering and philosophy. To me, that's Inspire, right? When you
Right?
see those connections and are empowered to think about pursuing these multiple kinds of interconnected paths.
Great.
Mm.
And then one of the questions that came up was, what advice would you give to parents of incoming students? Because that's going to be the majority of the people that are watching right now. Is there anything that you can think of that, what advice could you give?
I think encourage them to try new things. Encourage them to just be open and try it. That Inspire is a very friendly vessel with kind people who they won't have many opportunities in the rest of their life to try something brand new that has zero consequences of them not liking it or not being good at dancing or whatever it is. But you can try it. You might love it. I don't know how many times we've heard that on like reading scholarship applications last year, people who say, I never thought that I was going to be interested in this, but I took this class and now that's what I want to major in. You know, it like changes their trajectory because they tried something at school. So I would really encourage that to incoming freshmen for sure.
It's a very safe place to fail.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Um,
would say to take advantage of the clubs that have been mentioned is that seemed
Yes.
to be for both of our daughters, another way to sort of start to feel connected pretty quickly was to look at the list of clubs and again, it's a chance to try things without even committing to a course, a chance to try things. But it was a way to start meeting more people and feeling as a member of the community even more quickly.
I'd
yeah,
also just encourage you to volunteer. It's when our kids are younger, you're volunteering and having more contact with kids in classrooms and field trips and whatnot. And you do get some of that too at Inspire, especially if you do field trips or help supervise things. But you also have a great adult contact, and you get to learn about the school in different ways and hear stories. And just like this evening, hearing other parents' stories by volunteering. So I encourage you to volunteer.
Yes, good point.
mm. One of the questions that came up was let me see if I can go back to it. How are we directly addressing COVID and being more specific? I don't know if we want to go into that. I know we have a page on our website about it, but does anyone want to add to that? Because some people may not know how Inspire is addressing that.
Do you mean like
Well,
in
I could
terms?
say,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Jenny.
I mean, I could say a few things, but I don't think I know all of the pieces. I mean,
Okay.
besides when it was determined that things would have to be done online, that the faculty and staff looked really long and hard at how to do that well and engaged in professional learning opportunities in order to get the skills in place to be able to do that well, to use the platforms and the tools and technologies to do that in a way that was engaging and could further students' academic success. So that was one big piece. Another part of that was determining what is the best schedule for doing that. One of the things that we've been hearing, certainly in the news around for high school students, is that traditional multiple courses each day online, where I'm like 30 to 50 minutes in an online Zoom meeting for one course, and then transition 5 minutes to the next one, 5 minutes to the next one, that's very hard for students as well as faculty to manage all of that, to create connection with students and so on. And so the decision to go to this 1x8 schedule, where the students and the faculty would focus on one course at a time with the same group of students, that really works well online. But also it was implemented with an eye to the possibility of bringing students and faculty and staff back to campus, was that it would minimize the number of people that students and faculty would have exposure to. So that was a whole other sort of reasoning behind that approach to the schedule, was to keep faculty and staff and students safe. The other thing was looking at the air filtering system at the school, changing out so that like automatic door openers or hand washing and so on, so that to minimize the contact, training everyone on how to clean and disinfect spaces and how that would be done between groups of people coming into the same space, and then how to socially distance within each of those classroom spaces. All of that was mapped out and prepared for coming back to campus. They've been online all of this time with just small groups of people coming back to campus, practicing distancing and disinfecting and so on, wearing a mask and all of that. But everything has been done so intentionally in making sure that the students and everyone has such a positive experience and is prepared for when they can go back to campus, having a safe space for everyone to be back on campus together.
Mhm. Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I've talked to, like you said, Joni, I have friends who either have kids in high school around the country or are teachers at schools around the country. And I tell them what we're doing and they're like, oh my God, why aren't we doing that? You know, that is so smart. So yeah, it's brilliant, which is what I would expect from our Inspire teachers and faculty and staff to come up with, because that's the level they work at, no matter what they're working at. So
Right. And it's that think outside the box. Like we don't have to do everything
right,
just this way because
right,
that's the way we've always done it.
right.
And I love that way of thinking. And they teach the students to think that way too,
Mm-hmm.
to really challenge them. So we are wrapping up and there are no more questions. So I just want to thank the panelists so much for doing this. And I really appreciate you. I appreciate the attendees that have been on tonight. And we really can't wait to see your students, hopefully in person someday. That would be wonderful. But anyway, thank you so much.
Ready?
Thanks
Bye,
for
everyone.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
See you at Inspire.
Mhm.